Well, hello and welcome, football fans, to the Squirtle preseason football show. I am your host, Andy Campbell, and I am joined today by our usual panel of experts. We are a little more than a week away from high school football in the great state of Oklahoma, and Squirtle will be bringing you at least two games of the week next Friday night with Shattuck at Pioneer and Jones at Bethany. Our first guest on our panel, as always, one of the voices of Squirtle, Tom Nelson. You'll be hearing Tom throughout the football and basketball seasons on the Squirtle games of the week. Our next guest, Michael Swisher. Swish grew up in Dover, a proud graduate of Muscle Shoals High School in Alabama. He is currently the managing editor of the Kingfisher Times and Free Press and the voice of the Jackets on KingfisherSports.tv. And our final guest, Mark Rogers. Mark is a graduate of Blackwell High School and the University of Oklahoma, and is currently the host of the Middle of the Day show from 11 to 2 on WWLS, the sports animal. Guys, thank you as always for joining us. I'm sure you're as excited as I am, not only about this cold front that we have going through the state right now, but also football starting up here in the next week in Oklahoma. We're going to preview each class tonight, and I'll ask our panelists to give us a pick on who wins the gold ball in each class and other teams that are going to compete for the gold ball, and maybe a storyline or a player or two that they'll be following throughout the season. We'll start at the top with Class 6A1. Last year, the Jinx Trojans won their 18th state championship, but there's a new sheriff in town with the Bixby Spartans moving on up to Class 6A1. Those two teams will actually play on ESPN on November the 3rd. Tom Nelson, give us your take on 6A1.
Well, I tell you what, you wasted no time giving Jinx ammunition when it comes to calling Bixby the new sheriff in town. But I tell you what, 6A1 just gets tougher, and you take a look. First of all, I'll give you who I think is going to be in that mix, and of course, Bixby's going to be there. They've won 50. They're going to run that winning streak to 58 games in a row, I'll predict, which means in week 10, they're going to play Jinx on ESPN, and they'll lose that ball game. That's my prediction right there. Get to week 10, they're going to run the table until then, and then, of course, they might match up later on in the playoffs, and I will say that Jinx is going to be your state champion. They're going to tie Ada with 19 state titles. They've got a great running game. I'm looking forward to seeing Jaden Carroll. I got a friend of mine. It's his neat nephew, and he's been telling me good things about him. I saw him last year when Enid played over there, and he ran all over Enid. And they got some talent. And I'll give you a dark horse here real quick. Because I don't live in the Tulsa area, I've got to throw a team from the west side in there. My dark horse is Mustang. Can somebody win a state championship that's not over in the Tulsa area? Their top skill position players are back. They've got 6 defensive starters. Jacoby Johnson's a stud on both sides of the ball. So I'll see if Mustang can maybe surprise some people, and it wouldn't surprise me. I'm calling him my dark horse pick.
Some bold predictions right out of the gate from Tom Nelson. Michael Swisher.
Yeah, I think this is kind of going to be a theme, at least for me throughout here, is in looking at all of these classes, there wasn't just one team in any of these classes that I looked at and said, that's your state champ. Now, it may play out to where, there's a dominant team, and at the end of the season, it says, okay, well, it's pretty evident now. But, in 6A1 is really a microcosm of that. That's a $5 word. And I just think, Tom mentioned all those teams, and, you throw Owasso in there, Bixby joining the mix, Union and Jinx, of course. Of course, we know about the quarterback Shaker of Shaker going from Jinx to Union, basically mid-team camp. That's a big storyline right there. I will say, on the west side, he mentioned Mustang. I'm glad Tom did that. The thing they had the other night were meet the Broncos type deal, where they brought out all the little Broncos. I'm sure some of the other schools do that, but that's the closest thing I've seen on the west side that kind of gets close to anything they've been doing on the east side for over 2 decades. That had an east side feel to it for a large school. So I do think Mustang definitely is on the right track, but it's an east side dominated. I've really gone back and forth on this. I'm just going to go with Bixby. They're making the step up. I think in the end, just the talent that they have, and it's just a loaded 6A1 talent-wise, I think Bixby is going to be the one hoisting the gold ball.
Mark Rogers.
You had a lot of quarterbacks transfer. That was really an interesting move with Ricey going from Jinx to Union. I think this could be a good year for Union. You got to kind of pay attention to that. If a quarterback wins a state championship as a freshman at one school and decides, well, hey, I'd rather be at another school, then he probably is a pretty good evaluator of talent. So I think Union's the second best team in this class, but I think the best team in this class is Bixby. I don't know if you guys caught the Keeping Squirtle podcast from the Cherokee Hills Golf Club, where everybody else was in danger of heat stroke, and I was pretty safe that day, other than the 45 minutes I spent out with Matt Dieselhorst on the par 3. That guy can really play, by the way. So make sure he gives you some shots if you get on the course with him. Bixby's their program is built to the point where it's incredibly impressive. And Lauren Montgomery talked about how when he got there were 8 kids in the program that could power clean 225 pounds, and now there's 90 plus. So they've got Jersey Rob, and then you've got Haas and those players. I just think that Bixby's beaten all these guys. I mean, they beat Jinx the last 2 years. They beat Union in the COVID year, and I think they're going to win again. I just think that they have, to me, just kind of taken the reins. They've got a couple transfers that have come in there that'll compete for the quarterback spot. So I don't think they've ever been super strong at quarterback. Of course, the youngest Presley brother is going to be a freshman, and we saw the other 2 Presley brothers have great impact as a freshman as well. And this is supposed to be the biggest and the strongest and the fastest of the 3 brothers. So I'm going Bixby. I got Bixby and Union in the championship.
Swish, how are your power clean numbers these days?
Well, I mean, I'm a member of the 1,000-pound club, if that matters, but really, I'm a bench guy, so that's where I really put it up there. The bench.
I could power clean a steak sandwich supreme pretty quickly.
We'll talk about some chicken fried steak and steak sandwich supreme on your middle of the day show, Mark. When you had Coach Hardaway on there last week, it was
Don't tell Coach Hardaway.
Let's move on. Class 6A2, Mark Rogers. This is a very interesting class. We just talked about Bixby leaving to join 6A1. 6A2 seems to be wide open now that Bixby's gone. Who do you have in 6A2?
Wide open. I mean, wide open. You really have to I just think numbers wise, Deer Creek is up there. They are right on the cusp of the largest school in 6A2. They made the finals last year, so I like them a lot. I think Coach Stanley does a nice job, and I think that he's got a good group there. Choctaw has to rebuild their offensive line. Steele Wassel, RJ Jackson, incredible combination, quarterback tight end. They can really run there too. Stillwater will be good. Booker T has got a ton of athletes, just not a whole lot of depth. I like, as a dark horse on this side of the state, I like Putnam City. I think PC's had got some transfers in there, and I think they can compete at this level in this class when it's this wide open. I got to go with, and I know that they lost some linemen from last year, but I'm going to go with Deer Creek. I think that they made the final last year. I think they take the next step and win it this year.
Michael Swisher.
Yeah, I mean, I want to echo a lot of what Mark. I mean, obviously, wide open. I mean, there was a parade held in every 6A2 school when they knew for sure Bixby was moving up, because that did open it wide up for everybody. Deer Creek made the huge run last year, got to the finals for the first time since probably varsity Ron Smith was the head football coach there, and his son Paul was quarterback in the Antlers. So
that's correct.
Couple decades ago, early 2000s. So, just a huge run for them, and I do think that they're going to be in the mix and with a great shot to win. And I think they got a big move in from Alabama last spring, Dale Miller. So that's going to put just bolster Deer Creek even more. Some of the best facilities in 6A2 as well. Stilley, Choctaw, Booker T, and again, a lot of talent in this class too. We're going to see a lot of these guys playing at the next level, at a high level. I'm going to go with Mark on this one. I'm going to go Deer Creek. I've really struggled. I wrote down 5 schools before we started this, and I didn't know which one to go, but Mark kind of talked me into it. I had Deer Creek in there. He really talked me into it. So I'm going to say the Antlers bring home the title.
Tom Nelson.
Well, first of all, I think we have a really, really, really good chance to see the first 6A state champion from the West Side since Midwest City got it done in 1995. That's a long, long stretch. And I'm going to throw my dark horse out there first. This is not much of a dark horse, but you're kind of looking at it. I have Booker T. It's kind of a dark horse to me. A lot of good young talent. As I said, not a whole lot of depth, but they got Lathan Boone, who threw for over 2,500 yards last year and 30 touchdowns and 5 picks. Very impressive, and looks to improve on that. And I think Booker T is a team that could make a run on the east side. I am going to be the contrarian here, and I'm going to go with Choctaw. I think somebody from the west side is going to win it. Either Deer Creek or Choctaw played in that championship game. But, you got to give a lot of credit to Deer Creek. First winning season since they moved to 6A2 a few years ago, and they get all the way to the championship game. But everybody's glad in 6A2 that Bixby's gone, and I think we might have a state champion from the West for a change.
Andy, were you the only one still in high school in 1995 that's on this panel?
I was not in high school quite yet.
Were you?
Not quite yet.
So
wow.
Sorry to age you there, but not quite to high school in 1995.
Yeah,
Andy won't be able to sit with us at the bar if we go someplace after the game.
Yeah, but when we're asleep, he'll be awake. So.
No doubt, especially because I have an 8-month-old. So let's move on. Class 5A, Collinsville will be attempting to defend their title in a class that's been dominated by Carl Albert the last several years. Michael Swisher, lead us off. Who wins 5A this season?
I was told by somebody I trust that Collinsville will not be repeating this year, that they just lost way too much and just not going to have the firepower needed to defend the title. So I hate to say that opens it up because, like you said, this has been Carl Albert's class for much of the last decade plus. But it's, I think all 3 Mid-Dale schools are in 5A this year. Midwest City, Dale City, who's got a lot of talent. And then you got to go out east, of course, to McAllister, Eric McCarty and the gang, and Coach Mazey's got that program really rolling. And I know that they rode that momentum last year all the way to the finals, almost pulled it out. I'm going to say Carl Albert, McAllister championship game. And let's do it. Let's say the Buffaloes are going to bring home the championship this year and make Eastern Oklahoma proud.
Tom Nelson.
I can't disagree with that. I've got the same championship game, McAllister and Carl Albert. And I got McAllister winning as well. Like you said, Eric McCarty last year, 2,000 rushing yards, 10 yards to carry, and in 5A, that's pretty tough to do at that level. 38 rushing touchdowns. He's a stud. They were 13-1 a year ago. Carl Albert got a lot of talent back, but and I'm sure they'll bounce back from last year's quote disappointment. But I think that McAllister will get it done. And my dark horse, you mentioned this one as well, Swish. Dell City, 9-2 a year ago in 6A2. They moved down to 5A. And, they were 4-6 in 2020, go to 9-2 last year with the new head coach, Robert Jones. And I think they are the dark horse in Class 5A.
Mark Rogers.
This is the toughest class. This is the most balanced class. I think this is the best class in the state with teams that are all good enough to win a state championship. I know Bill Haston of the Tulsa World spent some time with Eric McCarty this last week. Is going to have a big feature on him and what a great player that he is for McAllister. McAllister could win it. Carl Albert could win it. McGinnis can win it. I think Guthrie could win it. Midwest City, Dell City. It's the first time Midwest City's played in not the state's largest class. I think Coweta is really good. I think Ardmore is good. So there are 8, 9, 10 teams that are very good. Collinsville is the defending champs, but they lost a lot of players. It's a good enough program where I think they rebuild and are competitive. I'm going to go with McGinnis. Here's a little bit of an upset pick. That was a great district race last year with McGinnis, Guthrie, and Carl Albert all playing 1-point games. I think River Warren is a year older with some more experience. Kazan Bird transferred in from Westmore that will play some linebacker and running back for them. Mike Taffy is one of the top running backs in the state, and he's started for a bunch of years. So McGinnis's offensive line will be back healthy this season. So I'll go with the Fighting Irish to finally get over and win the 5A championship here on Carl Albert. But I do think that the Titans have had some move-ins, and they're going to reload, and I think they'll be improved over from a year ago.
Class 4A, the Clinton Red Tornadoes dominated title in what was a big surprise to me, 35-0 in the state championship game last season to win their 17th gold ball. Tom Nelson, start with you. Tell us about Class 4A.
Well, I like Cushing. They've got all their offensive starters back from a year ago. Blaze Berlowitz, the quarterback, and he's got a stud in Camden Crooks, who two-time state champion in the hurdles, powerlifting champion, very, very good athlete. And I'm excited to see what Cushing can do. I think they'll play Wagner in the championship game. Wagner's been the team of the last decade or so with 6 titles, but they've got a really good dual quarterback in Gabe Rodriguez, one of the best quarterbacks in 4A. And my dark horse, my dark horse is Ada. I'm going to throw Ada in there. 3-7 a year ago, worst record since '46. Which, I mean, they're a powerhouse. They're one of the all-time great football schools in Oklahoma. But they've got 9 starters returning on offensive and defensive on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going to say that Ada might be the team that surprises this year.
Mark Rogers.
Ada also got a big move in from Elmore City. That'll have a chance to really play well for them this year. DeMontre Patterson is going to be a good player. This is also a pretty tough class to handicap. I like Cushing. Clearly, I think this is the year that they've been pointing to. But, man, they had a hard time with teams that ran the football last year. They got to be more physical. They've got to be able to stop teams that come right at them. And, they got bounced out of the first round of the playoffs a year ago by Elk City. I like Wagner. I like Poto. I like Tuttle. I think Tuttle just kind of reloads every year. I think Bethany's also going to be really good this year. That would be a team that I would consider maybe a little bit more of my dark horse would be Bethany. I'm going to go Poto and Wagner in the finals, and I'm going to go with the Pirates. Greg Warner is a guy that used to win 7 games in Blackwell, which is basically the equivalent of being Vince Lombardi. And he's one of the most active wins leaders in Oklahoma high school football. I'm going to crack up there because Diesel Horse is cracking up. So anyway, I'm going to go with Poto over Wagner in the finals.
Michael Swisher, pull this thing back in together.
Yeah, Blackwell's trying to figure out if that was a compliment or a knock right there. That was definitely backhanded.
It's a compliment.
Yeah, Mark mentioned one of my dark horses, not as his own, but Elk City. Made the run last year to the semifinals. Got a lot of that talent back this year. So watch out for the Elks. I'm going to get a good look at the defending champs in week 0. Kingfisher going to the Tornado Bowl in a week 0 game. You can watch that game on kingfishersports.tv or on squirtle.com, of course. And so
nice.
I'll get a good look at the defending state champs. But I kind of was I was leaning Poto, and I've already copied Mark once, so I'm going to stay away from Poto. I'm going to go with Wagner, which used to be the easy pick. Is the water warm? Mark there, come on in. Water's
come on in. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Wagner. That's never a risky pick in 4A, but I've already gone on Mark's side once. So let me be a little bit of a contrarian myself and go with Wagner.
Guys, I got to throw in a little nugget here from the boss man, Adam Dieselhorst. He said, look out for Weatherford, Coach Reagan Roof, and also Chickasha. 2 teams to look out for in Class 4A. Let's move on down to 3A, dominated by 3 private schools last year, with Holland Hall winning the title over Lincoln Christian. Mark Rogers, can a public school challenge for the gold ball in 2022?
Yes, I think they can. Verdigris beat Holland Hall last year in a close game, and I think they've got a ton of players back, so they could be really good. But I think this is going to be Lincoln's year to finally win it. They got beat in the finals about the last 2 seasons. And then credit to Coach Ricky and Coach Gross at Holland Hall. They're going to play the first week of the season in week 0. So I think that's a really good game. It's one of my top 3 or 4 games of the season in the non-district schedule. So I like Lincoln over Heritage Hall, but I think Verdigris is there. And then after that, I kind of think this may be a little bit of a 3-team race. I'm not trying to get played in locker rooms and stuff like that, like they did to Tom last year when he was making some of his picks. But it's going to be tough, I think, there's some really good teams in this class. Plainview, Bristow, Perkins, I think is going to be pretty good as well. So you're talking about some teams I think that can compete. Marlowe's lost a lot, but they're jumping up in this class. Cassia Hall got a good program. Kingfisher's got a good program as well. But I think I'm going to go with Lincoln. And I think that the finals will come from those 3 teams: Lincoln, Heritage, and Verdigris.
Michael Swisher.
Yeah. Can a public school compete? Sure, but I don't think they're going to this year. they're not going to win it. It's going to come down to Lincoln Christian again, and then pick your other hall. Do you want it to be Heritage or Holland? I'm going to say Lincoln Christian gets over the hump yet again and brings home another state championship up there to Tulsa. And let's say they get some revenge on Holland Hall this year.
Tom Nelson.
I had a chance to call that state championship game last December at Edmond, the Lincoln Christian Holland Hall game. What a game that was. And it's cool that those same two teams are playing, as Mark said, next week in 0 week, they're playing at Holland Hall. And that's going to be a tremendous ball game. And I think that they will work their way through the regular season and the playoffs. I'm going to pick those two in the state championship game. I think Holland Hall, two-time defending state champs, they've got some developing to do, but I tell you what, they'll just reload. I think Lincoln Christian is going to win it, though. Luke Milligan's the new quarterback, has big shoes to fill. Max Brown is on down the road, but I think that they will do that. I think Lincoln Christian will beat Holland Hall for the state championship. And my dark horse, I'm going Perkins Triad. I think Perkins, I think they could be a fun team to watch this year, kind of up somewhere in the Stillwater Enid area. I'll get a chance to see them a little bit. So I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what the Demons can do.
Class 2A, Washington, the Warriors were ranked number 1 all year last year, but fell to Marlow 17-13 in the state finals. Michael Swisher, tell us what to watch out for in Class 2A.
You know, Mark talked about the depth of 5A, and certainly it is, but 2A, another one of those classes where, you know, you just look down the list and it's just like, okay, they're pretty good. Yeah. Oh, they're pretty good. Oh, they're going to be pretty good. And before you know it, you've got a top 10 and you've left out a couple of pretty good teams. I'm definitely thinking Washington is still going to play in the mix. I mean, both, you know, boys and girls programs there right now are just rolling along really well, doing really well at Washington. So Washington's going to definitely be in the mix. And then you look at some of these schools that you know are always in there. You've got Millwood, Beggs, Vian, you know, and this year Rejoice, you know, Christian is going to be really talented. We'll get a look at them on Squirtle here in week 0. And then Crossings Christian in there as well. You know, that program's on the rise. So I'm going to say Washington kind of remembers last year and is able to win the title, but man, the 2A playoff bracket, that's just going to be, you know, each and every week, that's just going to be just a monster game. So whoever runs the table there will definitely have earned it, just like Marlow did last year.
Tom Nelson.
Yeah, 2A is so much fun. You're exactly right, Swish. The depth it's going to be fun to watch as we get into November and December. But I think at the top, I think we'll agree on this. Washington, you know, last 4 years, 38-4. Or last 3 years, 38-4. They've got some studs coming back. They are upset because they got beaten that state championship game a year ago. I think they'll play Beggs for the state championship. Beggs lost quite a bit of talent, but they got quite a bit coming back as well, including a huge offensive line, which always helps. Washington over Beggs for the state championship. My dark horse, I'm going with Pawhuska, making the move up from Class A. Had a chance to see him quite a bit, you know, on Squirtle, doing some games and getting a chance to see Pawhuska. They're my dark horse because I am interested in watching them all season long and seeing how they compete at the next step up. We'll see what happens. But Coach Matt Hennessy's squad is going to be fun to watch. We'll see how they can battle against the bigger schools.
Yeah, 2 straight semifinals appearances there in Class A for Pawhuska the last couple of years. Mark Rogers, tell us about 2A.
Since this is Blackwell's class, I'm going to recuse myself from making a pick in here. No, I'm kidding. It's Washington. I think they're the team to beat. Cooper Alexander, Stephen Alexander's son, is transferring in from Norman to Washington, where I think he's going to be he'll really help them a lot. And returning quarterback on that team, I just think it's their turn. 2 years in a row, they've lost in the finals, lost to Metro and lost to Marlow. The Marlow team that had as many kids on the sidelines as most 6A Division I teams did last year with 80 kids. Washington's got a bunch of their own. They got about 65 out for football. So in Class 2A, that's just difficult for other teams to try to compete against. Rejoice Christian, Chance Wilson is a phenomenal player. One of the better all-around quarterbacks in any class. And Rejoice is an interesting team with all his numbers. I think he's going to put up some fantastic numbers this year. So I think Millwood is very good as always. Crossings Christian was a pick for me in that district of 2A2 that is really tough. You got Chandler, Jones, Crossings, Luther in there has been very good. But I'm going to go with Washington. I think in the finals, it could be any number of teams that they would face. But I'll say Washington over Rejoice. Victory also, I think, is going to be really good this year, too.
Coach Miller doing a great job over at Washington. Would love to see him get over the hump and win a state championship this year. Vian and Washington play next Friday night. Is that correct, guys? Where do you know where that game is? Is it at Vian?
I've seen conflicting schedules on that, so I'm not even sure where they're at. I've seen both.
Okay, well, I know where you can find it, and that's Squirtle.
It's at Vian, I
At
believe. We had Coach Beller. We talked about that. It's either at Vian or I think it's at Vian. They're making the trip.
If it's at Vian, they may have trouble getting a signal out of that place. I have nightmares about broadcasting from Vian, but that's a whole different story. So
The Squirtle team, Tom, will take care of it. We're the best in the business. So, guys, let's move on to Class A. It's a class that I'm fascinated with. Cashion won the last 2 state championships, lost a lot of their stars to graduation in May. We just talked about Pawhuska moving up to Class 2A after 2 straight appearances in the semifinals. Mark Rogers, Ringling, and Morrison both made runs last year in our 2 powerhouse traditional programs. Who wins Class A this year?
I'm not sure if this is going to be a Squirtle game of the week or not, but I am going to see the 100th meeting of Cleveland and Hominy. That will be in week 1 on Thursday night at Hominy. We're going to have a big induction ceremony for Benny Ballard, who coached at Hominy, of course, at Claremore, and Benny, a Hall of Fame coach. So that's going to be kind of a cool deal, especially around the pageantry of the 100th game there. The people at Cashion tried to really pour mouth their team and try to get me to rank them very low this year in the magazine. That's not going to work. They've got too good a program with too many. It's when you lose a good class of kids, there's guys have had to go up against them in practice and they're better for it. So Cashion is absolutely in the mix here. Ringling, I had the pick at preseason number 1. I think that Carson Daniel, quarterback there is a good player. They've got some experience, and Phil Coon's teams, they're tougher than you most of the time. So I like Ringling, but don't count out Fairview. This is not a homer pick to try to suck up to the Diesel horse. They're really good. They didn't lose last year. They lost 1 game at the end of the season. They've got a lot of their kids back. I think they're pretty good. Bill Huddleston tells me he went to the well for Gore, that I know sometimes that the Eastern teams struggle against the Western teams in this class, but Gore, I think, will be pretty good. And then a sure sign that Tonkawa is going to have a good season this year. Their coach, Mike Kirtley, who I've known for a long time, he didn't give me any names of players this season, which means that they've got some things that they're kind of hiding up their sleeve up there. So this is a good class, but I think all of those teams are right there. But I went with Ringling, but I think a lot of teams could win this one.
Michael Swisher, let's hear about Fairview and any other team in Class A that you feel might compete with them.
Well, if you want to hear about other teams that might compete with them, then this is going to be a short segment because it's the Yellow Jackets and nobody else. Yellow Jackets versus Yellow Jackets on Thursday. Kingfishers making the trip to Fairview for the scrimmage. Going to be joined by the Watonga Eagles. So you can get a good look for yourself when you go up there and watch them, right?
Absolutely. Two rivals there, Fairview and Watonga, and joined by the other Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, the other Yellow Jackets. Now, Mark and I are going down the same road. Ringling just has the recipe for success in November and early December, and that's just run the ball, play great defense. The one thing that's been able to stop them the last couple of years is somebody like Cashion, who just happened to have the horses and to stop that run game a little bit, or at least slow it down, and then able to get through the air on them a little bit. But more often than not, Ringling's formula is going to pay off. I think Coach Coons is going to have another team. They've lost 4 games the last 5 years, something like that. They're going to be right there. If they played Morrison, that would be about a 52-minute game, and that is with halftime going 30 minutes long. But I think it's going to be Ringling this year able to avenge last year's loss. not necessarily against Cashion. They do have some. I mean, they didn't lose one great class. They've lost two great classes. So they've got some serious rebuilding to do, and they're going to be fine. They're going to be good. Might take some early lumps, but it's going to be Ringling this year that gets the gold ball.
Tom Nelson.
From the Tom learning my lesson category, Mark talked earlier about how some picks I made last year came back to haunt. I made a flyer pick last year against Cashion one week, and the next week we did Cashion at Tonkawa, and I stepped out of my car and was accosted by a couple of Cashion parents going, "What the heck were you thinking?" So I'm going to genuflect at the altar of Coach Shack, and I'm going to say it's going to be Cashion playing in the state championship game again against Fairview, a couple of my area teams up here. And I'm going to pick Cashion to win because I don't want to take the flack from the Cashion fans again. So we'll see what happens with
security
that.
For Nelson, I mean, he's afraid to make picks here. Other teams that he's set there in his area. I mean, he can't step out of his car without feeling threatened. I mean, come on, put some money in the budget and get Tom a couple escorts.
Yeah,
or an armored vehicle. Exactly right. So
you got to get out of the car.
But,
So you need more than an armored vehicle.
maybe
that's
Swisher
exactly right.
could be a bodyguard if he's not calling Kingfisher games on Friday nights.
Oh, that kind of escort. You guys threw me off there. I was thinking.
Well, I'm going to say
Detail.
Cashion versus Fairview because I got a lot of friends over in Yellow Jacket land as well over there. And my dark horse is Hominy. You mentioned Hominy, Mark, and I like Hominy. A lot of returning starters. Maybe the best quarterback in the class in Jackson Woods. I think Hominy might be that team we might be talking about a little bit. Fairview, one more time, good sophomore quarterback, Jack Bernard, coach's son. Did a lot of good things as a freshman last year. Got a good running back in Blake Perez. And then 9 defensive starters, which is key, including big defensive in Austin Howe. So Fairview versus Cashion, but I'm going to say Cashion's going to win a third gold ball in a row. Throw that out there and I'll take my lumps.
I like it. Let's move on to 8-man football. Class B, Laverne won its 4th state championship last season after beating surprise Balco Forgan team that had a great year, went on a great run. Tom Nelson, to start with you. You're the 8-man guru. Who wins Class B?
I don't know about guru, but it sounds like I'm going to be in Pioneer next week for a good Shattuck Pioneer matchup, which will be a whole lot of fun. And, a year ago it was Laverne over Balco Forgan in the state championship game. And I think we're going to get a rematch. Those two district mates are going to play each other in the regular season, play each other again for the gold ball. And I'm going to say it's going to be Laverne. So here come the Balco Forgan fans and players again. They can throw it up for, there for bulletin board material again. Balco Forgan's really good. Jaden Hall's gone. That quarterback from a year ago was so good. But they do have 10 seniors returning, so they got some experience. Jordan McGowan's getting some D1 looks for them, wide receiver, safety, a guy who plays on both sides. Everybody does an 8-man football. But Laverne, Felix Teal, I saw him last year. I saw kind of one of his breakout games against Pioneer. He was a freshman. He's a stud. He's back. He's a quarterback for Laverne. And so Laverne versus Balco Forgan for the state championship. I think Laverne will get it. And my dark horse is, I'm going to stick to Garfield County here where I'm at. That's Garber. Good sophomore quarterback in Brett Howery. 40 touchdowns, 3 picks a year ago as a freshman. And another good young quarterback. A lot of good young quarterbacks in 8-man football last year. Freshman quarterbacks who are now sophomores. So Garber, the Wolverines, are my dark horse pick.
I still remember that Felix Teal punt return that we saw here live on Squirtle last year. That was incredible. Michael Swisher, tell us about Class B.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Balco Forgan to get this year's title. He mentioned Tom mentioned Jordan McGowan. Actually, I think tremendous overall athlete. I've got a couple of D1 schools that are looking at him. He's definitely got the size, so somebody to look out for. To kind of make that jump from 8-man to collegiate football, which is always fun to see how they're able to do that. But I'm going to go with Balco Forgan. Last year, I think I talked about it on this show. I wasn't sure how good they were, and I said we'd find out when they played Laverne the first time, and we found out that they're pretty good. And then they proved it by making a run to the finals. So I'm going to say, they got that experience last year. They're going to carry that to the state championship, if for no other reason than their new superintendent, Keith Campbell, when he moved to town, whoever Balco's best golfer was instantly became the second best golfer in Balco. So Balco Forgan Bulls bring home the title.
Campbells are always great golfers. That's just runs in the family. Mark Rogers, tell us about Class B.
Well, I wanted to get you guys maybe to break down B2, but we can't get Tom to do that because it's too many teams in the Enid area and he will lose some friends over this. So Oklahoma Bible to me is another kind of a dark horse team that everybody's talking about. They're independent, but they're coming in and they've got a really good squad. And that was one of the most difficult for me to rank in the pigskin preview from 1 to 6 is I think a lot of those teams are pretty even, but I don't know that any of them can get in the state title discussion. I think Balco Forgan's going to win it this year. That's kind of a theme. I think that's permeated through a lot of the classes that the team that finished second a year ago has got a good chance to come back. We've got enough people and some motivation and stuff like that to step up. I like Dewar. Dewar lost a lot of players, but they do have some players that have moved in. That's going to be a team to kind of keep an eye on. I think they're going to be, again, playing in B1, Shattuck, Hollis, Turpin, all good. All are going to be tough games for Balco and Vern when they play during the regular season. And then don't forget my man, Gary Manuel, his son at Sealing is also one of the top quarterbacks in Class B. I like Gary. I think he's done a really nice job out there, and they've got a lot of players returning. And I think they're the pick to me to win their district. They got out of the Ring of Fire in B1 and are over in B3 now. So I think that's a team also to keep an eye on. And then one kind of a trivia note for you guys, the team in the state that's had the most consecutive double-digit winning seasons, it's not Heritage Hall, it's not Bixby, it's not Jinx, it's not Union, it's Davenport. But they're dropping off a lot and they've lost a lot of players, but don't count them out. I think they've had 10 wins or more in 9 straight seasons.
Impressive run for Davenport, an impressive call out there for the OBA Trojans. Mark, Chris Kayott, Coach Kayott, Coach Mendenhall do a great job over there in Enid. Looking forward to see what OBA can do this year. All right, guys, one more class, Class C. Mountain View, Godebo, and Timberlake were at the top of this class all last year, with Timberlake winning the gold ball 48-36 in that state championship game. Michael Swisher, let's start off with you. What should we watch for in Class C?
All right, so I'm going to be really honest here. I've been working on a back-to-school issue. I'm knee-deep in our football preview edition here at the Kingfisher newspaper. I'm trying to get ready for our football broadcast. I'm getting ready for our football broadcast, so I've got ad reads to put together and get recorded. So I've been a little busy, and so my prep time for this was leading right up until our Zoom meeting started. And so I was about to start on Class C when this opened up, and then I saw Mark's mustache, and it just totally killed what little prep work I was going to get to do for Class C. So all that said, I'm just going with Timberlake, and that's nothing but a wild guess because I literally got to do no research for Class C, and most of what I said was the reason why, but really the only reason is that beautiful mustache right there in the middle of my screen.
Well, let's go to Ted Lasso then. Let's hear from Ted and tell us about Class C.
Well, this is the last time we're going to see this mustache because it's getting shaved off later tonight. So I just saved it for you guys and try to get the ratings for the show up some. So I think it's a pretty good pick, Timberlake. I mean, you can't go wrong with the Tigers. They're great every year. So I think Swish, you picked the right class not to go deep into. Tipton is going to be good. They're coming down from Class B, and I think that they've got a shot to play here. They always play a tough schedule. It's a tradition-rich program. They've won a bunch of games. A lot of move-ins to Maud. Bruce Harrell left Saskatchewan and went to Maud, so he got 3 transfers from Seminole. They're going to come over, and I think they're going to really make the Maud Tigers pretty good. But if it's good enough for Swish, it's good enough for me. I'm going to go with Timberlake to win.
Tom Nelson.
Tom,
you're on mute.
Hang on, I was coughing. I had the cough button.
Somebody's calling Tom and getting in him already about his pitch.
That's right. They're calling up. The phone is blowing up right now. But they won't be blowing up the phone from Helena and Goltry and Nash up there because I'm going to pick the Timberlake Tigers to win and get the repeat in Class C as well. Brian Severin, one of my all-time favorite guys to work with. I love broadcasting games up there because he takes care of me and makes sure that I get anything I need. And, they lost a lot off of last year's team, but, Timberlake means defense. They win with their D. They got good offense too, but they win with their D. They got 5 starters returning on defense. And then just put the ball in the hands of Merrick Judd as much as possible. Put the ball in his hand. The wide receiver, they're going to find ways to get him in with the football. And I think Timberlake is going to win that state championship. And I think they're going to beat Waynoka. I'm going with the Railroaders. Just down the road from them, they got a lot back. Panarell, their head coach, was a stud at Laverne. He's trying to bring that Laverne vibe to Waynoka. They open up against Balco at home next week. So the Balco-Waynoka game could be a nice little measuring stick for the Railroaders. And, you know, they're looking for their first state championship since 1996. And I think it'll be a little Class C party up there with those two schools hooking up against each other. My dark horse, I'm going way, way out to the Panhandle. You can't go any further west than Boise City. They were 6-6 a year ago. They return a lot of veterans. The offensive and defensive lines got some size there. That can help smooth the rough spots. And everybody has to make a long road trip to Boise City. So, of course, they got to make a lot of road trips back east. But we'll see what happens with Boise City this year in Class C. But hail the Tigers from Timberlake to get it done again.
Next time you're in Helena, make sure you ask them. I made one American Legion appearance at Blackwell. They only had 8 dudes. So I jumped in the car, went out there, got on base on an air, and played right field, hoped nothing would ever be hit to me. So my Legion career, I think I was 0 for 2, but I did get on base on an air.
Well, I like to say a similar thing. I'm 1 for 3 against Hooker in Legion baseball.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't play much, but somebody didn't show up, so they put me in the lineup, and I singled and drove in a run.
That's a great score. You're 333 average. That beats mine.
Take it.
All right, guys. We mentioned several games here that are about 9 days away on week 0, Friday night, that are just going to be fantastic games. I mentioned at the top of the show, Squirtle games of the week next week. Shattuck at Pioneer, which, Tom, you were on the call for that. Jones at
home game.
Jones at Bethany here in Oklahoma City area. Swish, did you say Kingfisher plays week 0?
At Clinton.
At Clinton. We also talked about Washington and Vian. So we have some really good games coming up, and you can catch all the action here on Squirtle.tv or KingfisherSports.tv if you're a Yellow Jacket. But be sure to tune in. There's going to be some great action, especially here early in the season as we get into district play. And be sure to watch out for the Pick'em Show coming to you live every week here on Squirtle. Thanks for joining us.